According to my trusty Fitbit, it is 9:30. Woohoo! And we are here. Aloha, kakiaka. I'm so happy to see you this morning. Thank you for joining with me in this beautiful sanctuary on a Saturday morning. And we'll just know that there may be others joining us along the way, but I have a very detailed time schedule. I could talk about the concepts that I'm here to share with you for an entire day, and we don't have that much time because you have other things to do and other people to see. So we want to just get as much into these concepts as we can, and then maybe you'll invite me to come back and we can take an even deeper dive next time. So all right, applause already. Yahoo, I'm on a roll. Thank you, Diana. It's nice to have friends and family. This is my ohana in many ways, so thank you. So I was just going to introduce myself a tiny bit, and some of you know me, others may not. So you may be wondering, who in the world is she and why is she here? Well, I have quite a rich history with Unity Church of Hawaii and the islands. I did an internship here in 2012. I lived on Oahu for 8 months. And since that time, I have returned as often as I can. I've also come to speak at Unity Windward quite a few times, Unity of Kona, the New Thought Center of Hawaii on the Big Island, and next week I'll be at Unity of Maui. So if you like what you hear me say and you want me to come back or know other places where I might support the organization or the people of a community, please let me know, because it is my joy to be on these beautiful islands with you. Now, that's enough about me for now. I want you all to know a little bit about each other. I know that some of you know each other really well, especially these two people right here sitting together and those two people sitting together. So I'm going to invite you to split up. And the very first thing we're going to do, does everybody have a packet, first of all? One of these gorgeous packets that my husband Russ so lovingly put together last night with all the handouts, and yay, more applause from Diana. And each of you have 5 pieces of lined notebook paper for taking notes or whatever you want to use it for. But there's a first page, alphabet affirmations, and this is one of the handouts that I developed and invented, I think, in my own mind many years ago to help me get through my time on the elliptical. I didn't have a sheet, but in my head I would just start talking to myself and affirming, and I used an alphabet to help me do that. So I might be saying, I am athletic, I am bold, I am courageous, I am determined, I am enthusiastic. You get the point. The only one I kind of cheated on was the X, and that might be, I am exceptional, I am excited, I am exuberant, because there aren't a lot of X words that are descriptors. So what I am going to ask you to do, and welcome, see, I told you people were going to keep coming in, and here they are, yahoo. I'm going to invite you to first, either in your mind mentally or on your paper, jot down 3 ways to describe you. Because when you introduce yourself to your partner, you can say your name, but then what you're going to say after that is, you are so lucky to have me as your partner, because I am artistic, and I am courageous, and I am loving. That's how I might introduce myself. I know you could go through the entire alphabet, but we're just, in the interest of time, going to ask you to pick 3. After you do your 3, then your partner will return, say, well, you are so lucky to have me as your partner. Da da da. Okay? Everybody game? So first you're going to have to get up and move. And I strongly encourage you to go introduce yourself to somebody that you know less well. So go. Does everybody have a partner? Welcome. That'd be great. Thank you. You think of everything. Mwah. Oh, thank you for fixing. I should have thought of that. If you haven't If you haven't switched, please go ahead and do so. And when you're totally complete, will you raise your hand? When you're totally complete, raise your hand. Okay. If you're totally complete, raise your hand one more time and look around and find another dyad that's totally complete. And then you get to go introduce your partner. So if Julie is going to be coming to, let's say you are coming to this dyad, you will introduce your partner and he will introduce you to them. Does that make sense? Okay, so go for it. Go find another dyad to pair up with. It looks like this is going to work out perfectly because right now there are 16 participants. When you are complete with that, come back to the whole group and we will move forward. And Tim is so exuberant that he is dancing his way across the aisles. All right, I love it. Just back to your original seat if you want. And you can keep moving around the whole day if you want to. It could be like musical chairs because we are here to talk about choices. Choices for change, right? My original title was It's All About Me. And this is a time to really take a deep dive into where you are in your spiritual journey, how you're showing up, how you are supporting this community, how you are enhancing your life, how you are living on purpose. And we are going to create some heightened awareness about the choices that we have and how we show up today. And I thought it would just be magnificent for us to get in touch with all the love and all the beauty, all the splendor that shows up when you all come and sit in these seats in this beautiful chapel. First, we have to appreciate who we are internally, right? And that's what the I Am affirmations is for you to practice. Share it with your friends if they seem interested. But mostly, just continue to do the practice. If you're interested in a blank sheet so you don't have to recreate your own, let me know and I can send you an electronic copy. So, choices. You even got to choose what words you used and what words you shared, right? Sometimes we don't share all of who we are when we first meet somebody. Sometimes we take a little bit of time and we play it safe until we really begin trusting mostly ourselves to be more vulnerable. So pay attention to that and notice what you're willing to share, how you're willing to show up. So I want to hear from you, and I have a mic, and there's an extra mic. Was anybody designated to run the mic, or can Russ help me run the mic? If I've introduced myself, I'm Nancy Little. Let me introduce you to my husband, Russ Little, who has also spent a lot of time at Unity Church of Hawaii. He did not officially intern here, but he had his own experience of internship in supporting me when I was here and as I returned. So say something about your experience of what that was like, introducing yourself or introducing your partner. Anybody willing to say a little bit about that? Or what they noticed about the energy in the room?
Aloha, my name is Juliet, but there's some people here that know me as Julie, and that's fine too. I chose somebody that I know, not real well, but we have a special connection and kind of a family connection, actually. And when he told me who he was, I listened intently. But then when I had to introduce him, I could only remember one of the things he said, and that was handsome. So how about that? Sorry, Charlie. No, it's good. It's a good thing. Yeah. So I noticed the energy of the room did elevate. And people got kind of louder and more into it, and that's really great. This is really a great thing you're doing, and for us to get in touch with ourselves. Sometimes, like for me, I am more of a giver and outside, and have a little more trouble looking inward. So, you know that.
This is about bringing it in. Thank you for sharing,
You're
Juliet. Let's give her applause. One of the things we often do, and I forgot to put this in my instruction, is when somebody gets introduced, that we applaud wildly. So since we didn't do it then, let's do it for all the people that are willing to speak into the microphone. And Tim has one now.
Okay. I noticed, well, I'm a little lower energy, at least starting out this morning. But, as I was sharing about myself with Olga Lucia, it's like, okay, I had a little energy. But in terms of talking about her to somebody else, I just felt my energy just come way up. And I realized how often that occurs, that if I'm talking many times about Olga Lucia, my energy spikes. So, thank you.
Thank you. You all catch on quickly. Any other observation? What was it like to claim some qualities for yourself? Did you notice anything about that? Are you all so well trained that you just affirm easily?
I'm Charlie. I'll counter what happened earlier. I said handsome just joking around because I couldn't think of a third thing to say. It's very difficult for me to just come out there and just describe me. I guess I just look at me as just being me. I can look at another person and describe them, but it's very hard for me to describe me. So when it came to the three things, I don't know. And I was like Juliet. I forgot what she told me and only remembered the one thing that she said, which was honest. And we should have wrote it down like some other people did. But just going from the top of the head, it's very difficult when you look at somebody and talk to them and try to remember what they say. I mean, it's just sometimes it just goes over my head. I don't know. Maybe it's an old person trip. I don't know.
We're not going to affirm that.
Affirm that.
No. Well, sometimes, thank you for sharing, Charlie. Let's applaud Charlie. I'm going to forever remember you as handsome Charlie. And Julie is honest Julie. And that's okay, because those associations are important. And it is really true. This is a practice, right? And sometimes we're not all that well trained to affirm our positive qualities. And they don't all have to be what we would traditionally think of as qualities that are positive. And in fact, what one person may claim as a quality, somebody else may think, ooh, I wouldn't want that. Like maybe somebody affirms that they're curious, and to somebody else, curious, they've heard that as being nosy or something. So again, it's just a way of drawing more understanding. Well, this is a great job, and I really, really encourage you to continue to work with this and bring it to life. I've already said how grateful I am for your presence. I will say something about myself. Another affirmation. I am claiming that I am a photographer. And I have not always, again, thank you, Diana. She is good. I did not even pay her. Most of these photos I took on one island or another. I'm fairly certain that I took this on Kauai. And many of you may not know that I do have what is known in Unity as an alternative Unity ministry. That means I don't exist in a setting that has four walls. I travel. So I travel around the mainland. I come to the various islands of Hawaii. And I have also done a service in Canada. So if you know of anybody on the mainland that you would like to recommend me to check out, I'd be happy to do so. I'm mostly based in Dallas, but I also grew up in Kentucky and have a home there. So I go to the Southeast sometimes as well. So Rumi, how many Rumi fans are in here? Probably most of us, yeah. Well, Rumi has some incredible wisdom, wouldn't you say? And this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. And this really encapsulates for me the concepts that we're addressing today. It has been my experience and observation, and by the way, I am also a member of Unity Church of Hawaii. Yay, more applause. A member, a donor, and a fan. I mean, I go home from going to services in my area, and I can tune in and watch you all and wave at you all at 4 p.m. while I'm sitting on my couch. We even put it on our big TV. So, Tim, I'm going to count on you to say something about Dallas sometime. Anyway, it has been my observation that you all have been through a fair amount of change in the last few years. Would you agree with that? So Rumi's wisdom is not to move the way fear makes you move. Fear does strange things to us, right? Even in this introduction that we just did with the alphabet affirmations, it can be a little anxiety provoking. And that can constrict us and affect our memories as well. And Rumi has the vast perspective that life can be difficult. And that's true. We know that's true. We can claim that it's good, but it can also challenge us. And that when we're frightened, sometimes it throws us off kilter. We get frightened, we get uncertain, we get unsure, and we always don't show up as our highest and best. Sometimes we feel a little bit like something is happening to us. I even heard somebody talking to their brother on the phone yesterday, and he was saying, why is God doing this to me? Now, he did come from a more traditional faith background, but sometimes even we in Unity say things kind of like that. So we can feel as if the waves are crashing in on us when the storms are blowing so severely and we're really off course. Or that we're even being picked on, that we're being targeted. And that's not a good feeling. So Rumi is offering us not to do that. So what we're going to dive into today in the limited time that we have is how we can make that happen. Because anxiety doesn't really support our highest health when it escalates to higher levels. Now, some level of anxiety people would argue is good. It's what motivates us to study for test when we're in, school, or to prepare for talks when we're going to present. I'm sure Tim has a small amount of anxiety before he does talks. I do too. Most speakers do. So it has some good components. But there's some really difficult things about anxiety too. And this is going to be the most busy slide that I have because it was a late addition. I felt like I needed to add more about anxiety. So my apologies for it being a little hard to read. But these are some of the things that anxiety can do for us. It can replace curiosity with an insistence on certainty. Like, I want to know what's going to happen. And I spent many years at Unity in Dallas as a member and a board member and a chaplain coordinator and a volunteer and a singles director. And my most favorite role, I was the director of dances for singles for one entire year. Yes, we did have that role. But when I was there, and I was there for a long time, that's where I began. Before I started my own ministry, I had 11 ministers in my short tenure there. Do you think we had some anxiety there? Yeah. And people wanted answers. It also can make people get into really polarized positions and really unbending. So that's a factor. And it can also make it really hard for us to even concentrate or focus. Our nervous system gets flooded sometimes when we're feeling anxious. It's very overpowering. And we want to get into right or wrong, yes or no thinking, either or. And it can, again, make you want to have things return to, like some people say, I want it to be normal again. Well, who really even knows what normal is, right? Or sometimes we yearn for the good old days. Well, our ideas about what the good old days were are often distorted as well. It can also make people feel somewhat helpless and have more self-doubt, more defensiveness, more reactiveness. And I bet most of you have experienced that maybe it wasn't here if you're fairly new or you didn't tune into it, but maybe in your family, maybe in a work environment. Most of us have been through an experience of that reactiveness. So what I invite you to today, yes.
I have to use this. Does it seem like anxiety is a place where we go to because we're comfortable being in anxiety? Do you feel that?
I don't think we're comfortable in anxiety, but I think that our brain recognizes old patterns of, I'm hesitant to use the word dysfunction, but my background is counseling, and I worked with a lot of couples and families. So sometimes we had old patterns of relating in our families that we grew up. And so sometimes we get triggered by what's happening in the present, and we have an overreaction to what is in the present because it's intensified by something that we haven't really dealt with effectively and moved through in the past. But I don't think most of us like being in anxiety because it's restrictive, and it produces all sorts of other issues, which I'll say more about later. So this is one of my photos, and this is a photo from Kauai, the Nepali coast, and this is a sea cave. And when I first went in there on a boat, I felt like I was in a heavenly space. I had the most complete sense of awe and wonder and serenity. And I said, this is a sanctuary. This is a sanctuary. Now, unfortunately, you can't stay in there very long, right? You all know this if you live on the islands, because the waters change, and even some parts of the year, you would never get out if you got in there. But at the right time, it is a heavenly feeling. And this is the heavenly feeling I wanted for you today. I wanted for you to join me in this journey of peace, of tranquility, and higher knowing. So let's move. And I wanted to start with some heart agreements. When I move around, can you still see the screen? Curious? Yeah, okay, we're all good. So I'm going to just go over them and ask everybody to say yes if they can live with these. I agree to honor, respect, and appreciate the Christ within others and within me. Yes? I agree to speak freely and honestly. Yes. I agree to listen with heart, mind, and spirit. Yes. I agree to create the environment that encourages people to safely express their experiences, concerns, needs, and feelings. Yes. And that may mean just looking at people with loving eyes. Like if I'm going and twisting and contorting my face when somebody's talking, it may be because I have an itch or because of some other reason, but just be mindful that other people may interpret that as you're having that reaction to them. So just be as loving as possible. I agree to honor each request for prayer. I don't know that it will come up, but it might, and if it does, I or Tim, I am guessing, or somebody else can volunteer to, Mary can lead us in prayer. We have some great prayers in here. Love it. We're blessed with prayer. Yes, okay. And then I am committed to living these agreements to the best of my understanding, and I just want to see everybody's hand in the air if that's a yes. And then I can truly know. Thank you. I just want to put that out there because sometimes we forget the importance of really showing up with our loving spirit, our loving intentions, our loving voice and ears, and really bringing that to I can't miss this one. I may have to read this, but I wanted to bring a little levity to the room. Not levitt, but levity. And Levitt does bring levity too, but I love this cartoon. So this is just a little way of saying we do have better ways of resolving tension and conflict and anxiety. So here's Lucy, and she's running after Charlie Brown, and she says, "I'll get you, Charlie Brown. I'll get you. I'll knock your block off. And he said, wait a minute. Hold everything." He says, "We can't carry on like this. We have no right to act this way. The world is filled with problems, people hurting other people, people not understanding other people. How, if we as children can't solve what are relatively minor problems, how can we ever expect to?" Pow! She levels him. And she says, "I had to hit him quick. He was beginning to make sense." And that's what anxiety can bring. You know, he was coming from his higher self. He was bringing that consciousness of love and that consciousness of peace. And Lucy had to shut him up quick. But we do have better ways. And I know nobody hits each other literally like Lucy is so notorious for leveling Charlie Brown. But sometimes when we're close to people and we're in relationship, we do bump into each other, right? This is Tim and Olga Lucia's anniversary. Applause. And I bet they bumped into each other a time or two. As much as they love and adore each other, you know, Russ and I celebrated our 11th anniversary this June. Yeah, we bump into each other sometimes. Sometimes, you know, we fall down. But you move through that when you set your intentions for peace. So, wow, you can't read this at all. But this is the Buddha. Let's see if I move closer. Oh, I know what I can do. I can read it from these slides that beautiful Diana, who thinks of everything, made me. Yay, let's applaud Diana. This is this beautiful slide. Just enjoy the color and I'll read the words. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. We want it to show up out there, but we're looking in the wrong direction, right? We need to be looking inside. So my invitation for you today is just to allow yourself to be pulled along. We're on a journey of discovery, and we know we're going to find the most amazing treasures, right? They're our treasure chest to be experienced, discovered, and found on our path. And did we ever watch a movie? Like, I don't know, I never watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But I think about that movie with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. What was that movie called? And Danny DeVito? Say again? Romancing the Stone, thank you. Now, that treasure, was it easy for them to get to? No. They practically lost their lives countless times. And so when we are seeking treasures, it can be filled with some difficult moments. But we remember this quote from 2 Timothy. This is one of my favorite quotes. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. We have that gift. That's part of our divine blessing. And when we stay centered in that, we're all good, as I like to say. So here's some of the objectives I created for today. It looks like a long list, but these are my intentions. And like I said, sometimes we're more or less skimming the surface. We've already started on some of these. So to connect with others in this ohana that are navigating change. To really add to your leadership toolbox, because I am proclaiming today in this moment that each of you are leaders. You are here. You are a leader of the spiritual ohana. And so you're going to add some tools. From the packet and the material that we'll be covering, you'll have some additional information on change. You're going to have an opportunity to build your language. Now, some of you know more than one language already. You know a little Hawaiian, some of you know Spanish, some of you know maybe French or Portuguese or whatever, Japanese, I don't know. But we're going to learn a little bit more about the language of feelings, because sometimes we're not so good with feeling language. And anytime you say, I feel like you, that is not a feeling. What is that? If I say, I feel like you don't understand me, that's what? Well, it's a judgment. It's not a feeling, it's my belief, it's my thought, it's something I'm telling myself. It's not a feeling. So just because you put the word feel in there doesn't mean you've shared a feeling. Okay. You enhance your awareness and how-to skills for self-care, self-compassion, Loke's applauding, and resilience. Self-care, self-compassion, and resilience. This is my passion. It is such a passion of mine that you may be interested to know that there is a new SEE class that will begin in October, offered by Unity World Spiritual Institute, that I developed, and I am teaching the first ever self-care class. Highly recommended for all LUTs. And you can even go online and watch my little YouTube video. But yes, I completed the final work on my class and collaborated with my instructional designer who's in the Netherlands since I've been here. So all my people think I'm just over here playing. They don't know I'm actually doing some real fun stuff, but it's not all beach stuff. Okay, so self-care and to develop skills to give support to each other. If we're really filled up within ourselves, then we have that emotional space, that availability. Come on in. Hi. To be with another. And finally, to set intentions for the remainder of 2017. Now, when I was going to sleep last night, I was thinking about this year. Do you all remember back to January 1st? Can you, think back that far? Woo, it was a long time ago. Well, that was about the time that you started interviewing candidates to come to be the next senior minister as the new year was getting underway. And then because I guest spoke in Colorado on April 23rd, I remembered that was Easter, and that was Tim's first Sunday. I had said I would be here for his first Sunday, but I didn't make it. So the second kind of third of the year has been happening since then. Tim and Ogalucia have finally gotten all their things here, and they're here, and their vehicles here, and they're here. And so we're preparing for September 1st is very soon. We're preparing for the final third of the year. Did I say quarter earlier? Okay, good. So, it's like the next third, what we're doing today is setting us up for the final third of the year. So maybe you remember and maybe you didn't. When I first was communicating with Tim about this workshop, I had all these C words. I'm really big on alliteration. I love alliteration. It's so fun. I have this thing about words in general. But I ask you here today, do you want to have clarity or confusion? Clarity or confusion? And we're going to talk about how to find that. And this is from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is another one of our New Thought leaders, one of my favorite writers, and I love his messages. He says, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Again, you'll hear a recurring theme today. That's why it's called It's All About You. You have the choice. You have the keys. We're also thinking about balance and composure, or the C word, composure or consternation. You know, it sounds like there's been some consternation here. There's been some consternation at Unity of Dallas, too. There's consternation at times in all of our lives, but we want to find ourselves in that place of composure where we know the truth of who we are and we're grounded. So here's another of the quotes that you probably can't see that well, but it says, "Peace within creates," that's the word I couldn't read. Well, I can read it better up there than on that. Creates beauty without, right? So when I'm feeling really good inside, everything's magnificent outside too. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, look at that. And oh, she's so kind. I'm enjoying her so much today. But there are times when I'm not in that place, that I'm seeing outside of me what I'm feeling inside. And it's like I put the magic spotlight back on myself. And so the final one is collaboration or collision. And we talked about how we sometimes bump into each other. But the real idea for this community, for our families, for our relationships, is collaboration. We really want to inspire that as leaders. How can we join together? You know, Russ and I had an experience on Thursday. We were over in Haie State Park, over on Kaneohe Bay, and we went on a little kayak trip. There's nothing to test a relationship more than kayaking together, I've heard. Have y'all experienced that? Yeah. And the guides were very clear. You know, let the person in the back, the stronger person, do what he or she does. And just be silent and just keep paddling. Well, while we were paddling, we had huge waves. You may remember the waves on Thursday. And coming back, it took 45 minutes instead of the normal 30 because of the wind and the waves. And about 2/3 of the way back, we were hit with a torrential downpour. Well, I actually found that refreshing. That gave me like a boost of energy to keep paddling the remainder of the way. But it's kind of like life, isn't it? You know, we expect it to be one way. And even on your resilience sheet in your packet, there's a photo that's kind of like that shows how we expect it to be a straight line. But what really happens is there are potholes, and there are dips, and there are curves, and there's rain, and there are clouds. And so we're called to remember who we are and to remember how we can join with others as allies. You know, there's one of my favorite sayings, ancient Hawaiian messages from Alela Loiao. I can't remember how to say it in Hawaiian, but the English is, put the paddle in the water and draw it back. And I thought about that when I was paddling the other day. That's what we do. We just keep putting the paddle in the water and drawing it back again and again and again. That's how we make progress. That's how we get where we need and want to go. And sometimes we have to forgive. I put a link on here to a beautiful video by Jack Kornfield. Any of you know Jack Kornfield? Yeah, a beautiful Buddhist teacher. I have quite a few of his books. And he's done a YouTube video. It's 13 minutes and 42 seconds. It's one of the videos I selected for my class. But maybe we need some reminders on forgiveness, because maybe we need to forgive ourselves, or maybe there's somebody else in this community or in our lives that we need to forgive. And I love this quote by C.S. Lewis. Everyone says forgiveness is a lovely idea until they have somebody or something to forgive. You know, it's nice when you hear it out in just this conceptual, and it's kind of like when we talk about the healing work of community. Oh yes, that sounds lovely. It sounds so nice. But when it's actually us when we're the ones that are paddling through the forgiveness or paddling through the conflict or paddling through the upset? We're not so eager at times to embrace it. And then finally, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. That's the Buddha. Now, some of you may know Sue Sicking. She is a unity minister that is one of my favorite writers and sources of inspiration. She's one of the unity power women, in my opinion. And this is her thought, and this was in a book that she compiled, which was letters that she had received. She had a radio show. She was a very early leader in getting the message out to people all over about unity. And she wrote this book called Letters to Adam. And she said this: every assignment in life, whether we call it a challenge, a trouble, a sickness, or any kind of setback, is only there in order to stimulate greater power in us to move through it. It's all there for us. Now, we say that in so many ways in unity, right? It's a blessing, but sometimes it's hard to see that. So we have to stay open to the mystery and the gifts, the treasures. So again, I want you to take a couple of minutes and pair up with somebody different. We've had a few new people come in since the last pairing up, so I'm not sure if we have an even number or not. And what you're going to share with each other is, how do you approach the unknown? How do you approach the mystery? Especially if it's something that feels as if it's a bit ominous, if it's a bit of a looming issue. How do you approach that? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So we will come back at 10:18. All righty. begin to wind down. We're about 12 minutes away from a break, so if you can hold on 12 minutes, we'll have a break, and you don't want to miss what's going to happen right before the break. Give your partner either a handshake or a hug or a warm smile, pat on the back, or all of the above. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for playing. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being willing to take a little bit of risk here. So anybody want to say anything about their experience with that or any insight they had?
Hello. Oh, there we go. I can relate to this, and I was talking to Russ, and we both had similar experiences of a parent passing away, and I was doing so much in my life, going through life's journey and saying, oh, this is another example of what life is about, and it's how you handle it. And I was working, I was a student at UH. I said, I got this. And my mother was going through hospice. She passed away, transition. And then it seemed like the ground just dropped from under me. And I felt like giving up. And I kind of sort of did, because I had 3 classes to go at UH. I'm a senior. And my professor, my advisor says, don't think of it like you dropped out of college, Marcia. I'm not going to say that. Well, I just did. But I'm not a dropout, okay? I'm going back, and I'm going to get my degree. I promised my father. My father even said, don't give up. And so I can relate to this about my parent passing, because Russ had told me his story. And, you know, I kept saying all through this, I got this. And then when my mother passed, I did not have it at all. It was like, oh, God, where are you? But anyway, that's my story.
Thank you. And, you know, you're making a really important point. Thank you. Let's applaud Marcia. I'll be back. But one of the things we're going to talk about in the second half is a little bit about the impact of cumulative losses, multiple experience of loss. And most of us, we're not just dealing with the loss in one location or in one situation. We're dealing with multiple. So congratulations on what you've already accomplished, and I see great things ahead for you, Marcia. You're a mighty woman.
I thought maybe I was off the hook, but I just talked to someone, and anytime I see somebody who is not originally from the United States and they're in the United States, I see them as somebody who moves into these challenges with, in a great way, because I think, what would it be like to not be speaking my native tongue and have to find my way? So I have a lot of admiration, but of course I heard different, that I have fear, but she said as she goes along the way, the more she knows herself, the better she does. And that was almost exactly what I was saying, is like every time I get in a situation that's challenging, I'm like, this is being given to me to learn more about me and who I am and how I deal with it. And then I just sat down next to Richard, and he said something about, how can you... No, but the same thing came up, though. He said, how can you, it's all yourself. You are yourself. So it was interesting without consciously saying it. I mean, thinking to say it, we all said it. So, Yeah. It's all about me.
Thank you. It is all about us. And I see Tim has a mic.
I just wanted to say that when I first encounter something unknown or scary, I want to kind of withdraw from it. But then there's a part of me that's adventurous and just plows in. But there are times where I get anxious and concerned occasionally about things. And I do something that Mindy Odlin taught me to do. Some of you may know of a licensed Unity teacher named Mindy Odlin. And she taught me to do what if upping. And what if upping goes like this. What if all the resources I need to face this challenge are already here? What if this challenge is going to bring out the highest and best in me? What if this is in my life because this is what is needed for my transformation? What if the presence of God really is living as me and I can make it through this? And I start doing what if upping. And I find it a great way to transform my thinking and feeling.
Applause. And let's applaud Loke too. We didn't get to I didn't miss that step. My apologies, Loke. Yeah. And it's very similar to my technique, which is when sometimes it's a big whammy. And maybe it doesn't even directly relate to me, but maybe some of you had a reaction when you woke up on November 9th, I think it was, and you learned the results of the presidential election. I had a reaction, and it's like, okay, it's up to me to show up and to trust and to believe. And my kind of motto, the motto I've adopted is, there's good in this somewhere. And I'm open to seeing it. I'm open to experiencing it. I'm open to knowing it because I know that it's there or it wouldn't be happening. And that really helps keep that energy shifted. I know it's there. And when I set that intention to look for it, it's like I'm being a detective. Okay, where's the good? Where's the good? Where's the good? What am I grateful for in this? It always shows up. But we have other tools we can use. We have other very important tools. And who better to give us inspiration than our sweet Unity co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. I love Mama Myrtle and her wisdom. And I paired this graphic with it because it seemed to fit so beautifully. She says, we must have opportunity for quiet and inner searching. That's why I love being on the islands. Yes, I've been working sometimes up to 10 or 11 hours a day, but I have my moments, my morning meditation out at the bay or on the water. I've had lunch in beautiful locations, dinner in lovely locations, and the quiet allows me to do that inner searching. And this is one of my probably 10,000 photos of Waimanalo Beach, where I have walked a lot of miles in my day. And this is a continuation of Myrtle's wisdom. She says the only way to really know is to become perfectly still, to get away from the outer and from looking for things, into the inner quiet where we are alone with wisdom. And she makes this bold and inspiring comment. In the silence, wisdom is given for every need. Every need. We have to be willing to get silent. We have to be willing to trust. We have to be open to listening. And sometimes that's hard for me. Anybody have chatter issues? Chatter. Yeah. But we have the opportunity to practice that. So I'm going to tell you a story now. And at the conclusion of my story and a brief little activity, we will be taking a break. So this is a story of strange words. And at the conclusion of my story, I'm going to invite you to come up. But this happened a very, very long time ago in a land far, far away. And there was a famous wealthy person passing through town. So he stopped his caravan, and he was right outside a busy restaurant. And he motioned for 4 people to come over. He just caught their eye and beckoned them over to him. And they knew that he must have wealth from his caravan, and so they eagerly and excitedly rushed over. And so he presented each of them with a gold coin, 1 gold coin. And he said, "This money is to be shared amongst you." And he went on his way. Well, the first person was Persian. And he said, "With this money, I will buy some angur." And the second person said, No. This person was Arab. And he said, "No, you can't, because I want to buy some inab." And the third person was Turkish. And he's like, "No, I don't want that. I want some azum." Finally, the first person was Greek, and she's like, "Gosh, no, you guys, you got it all wrong. I don't want what any of you want. I want some stafil." But they really didn't know what each other were saying. They didn't know what they were saying they wanted. They just knew what they wanted. And it's all about them, right? They were each thinking, it's all about me. I want it my way. So they didn't have very clear information. They did not have clarity. They were not willing to collaborate, right? That we talked about earlier. And they started to fight, and that their words and their angry voices escalated. So this person of great wisdom, she heard them. She was on her way to the restaurant too, and she paused and said, "What is going on here? What is happening with you all?" And they told her, and she's like, I can see a way out of this. I can fulfill your desires, but you have to completely trust me. You have to know that I have a way to resolve this that you will all be happy with if you just are willing. Well, they were tired of fighting, and she seemed so sincere and so kind that they did say, "Okay, we trust you." And she said, "If you give in to me, your 1 gold coin will become as 4, and 4 at odds will become 1. And isn't that really what we're all about here? When you come to Unity Church of Hawaii, is oneness what you're seeking? You know, is that what you want for your life, to know that sense of oneness with the divine? Well, here's the hidden element of the story. That this person of great wisdom, she knew all these languages. And in reality, they all wanted the same thing. You see, that was the word for grapes in each of their languages. They all wanted grapes, but they didn't express it in a way that they could hear it. And sometimes that happens for us when we're in community. Like we really want the same thing. Or in our families, sometimes we get into arguments or conflict or disagreements, and we realize, I forgot what my point was in the beginning. I've lost it. But we just know that we're taking a stand. That's how anxiety and fear can move us. So, as a way of helping you to really remember this message and to claim the immense value that each and every one of you bring to this community and to the world, I'm going to invite you to come up one at a time, and I have a gold coin for each of you. And it is a legitimate gold coin that I share with you to honor that Christ presence within you and the love that you have. And then we will take a break. Let me see how much I've allotted for break. We're doing really well. We'll take a break to 10:30. Well, we'll say 10:40 because I am a tad bit behind now. And when we come back, we're going to have a special treat. So come up, single file, 1 coin. Aloha. on. Hello, hello, aloha. Welcome back, everybody. Come on in. Again, I'm so thankful. I'm so appreciative for you sharing your Saturday morning. It really is an investment that you're making in yourself and in this ohana. So know that it means something to me to be able to share with you, but it also, I anticipate, will pay off rich dividends for you. I often have these brainstorms late at night, and we had put together 40 packets last night, and I was doing some last minute changes to the slides, and all of a sudden I said to Russ, I said, Russ, I have an idea. You have your ukulele. Would you be willing to play a couple of songs? Would you be willing to play a song to get us back from break? And he said, I could do that. What do you have in mind? And I said, well, what about There's Only Love by Michael Gott. Reverend Michael Gott is a dear friend of mine. He began in Dallas. He was started as a CSL music director and became a minister, and now he's a Unity minister, and like next week he's taking over as senior minister at Unity of Houston, one of the biggest Unity churches anywhere. So if you ever get a chance to tune into Unity of Houston, Michael Gott is another amazing voice. But right now we're going to let Russ be the voice of Michael Gott and lead us in a song called There Is Only Love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. When all fear and worry fall away from me, I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love, love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when I fear I've lost my way, then I go inside and quiet my mind. I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Mahalo, Russ Little. And he is the music director for Unity Spirit of Hawaii. Yay! You know, when I was here as an intern for 8 months in 2012, I had that particular song downloaded on my phone. And sometimes when I was in a bit of stress or frustration, or I was working on a newsletter or the slides or a paper, I would walk and hear that song. So you too could download that song. Michael Gott, There Is Only Love. Awesome reminder, right? Does anybody else just love the healing power of music? Yeah, such a healing option for us when we engage in self-care. I find that the more I engage many of my senses, the better things go for me. So we are back for the second half. It's really not the second half. This is less than half, just to not get you anxious about the time you've committed. But let's start with this beautiful affirmation as we begin the second half. And the graphic, inhale love. Just breathe in the love from this ohana. And exhale gratitude. Just gratitude for the people in this room, the people that have come before us, the people that are on their way in this moment. Just knowing and affirming that we are in the presence of the divine. And that, as this affirmation says, I'll say it first, then I'll ask you if you want to join me. I am guided by divine wisdom in every thought, word, and action. Together, I am guided by divine wisdom in every thought, word, and action. And yes, we are. And what a joy that is for us. So I'm going to ask you to use some of the pages in your booklet, your packet, your colorful folder that we provided you, and just answer 3 of these questions. Pick 3 for now. And then I'm going to ask you to move in a few minutes to share the 3 that you wrote about with a partner. So write the ones that you would be willing to share with somebody in this room right now. The first one, I'll just read them. Can everybody read them, okay? In the back? So I don't need to read them. Okay. So there's a variety of choices that you have, because I'm all about choices for change and healing. So I'm going to start. I'm going to pay attention to what time it is. I'll give you about 4 minutes to decide which ones you want to write and to write down, and then you will move to share with one other person. And I'll just remind you, I think I misunderstood what Loke was saying, and I apologize for that. But I'm just very sensitive to this, and so sometimes I overreact. That when we do share, that we share for ourselves and not other people. Because it's always easier to tell other people's stories than our own. It is for me. So just be aware of that, and thank you for that. I've invited Russ to play a little background noodling, no words. Is that okay with you all? Okay. Mahalo, Russ Little. If you have your 3 sentence completions done that you're willing to share, look around and find a partner that seems to be eagerly awaiting you to join them as a partner. Joy is looking okay. Charlie, thank you for moving. Take about 1 minute to finish up. Give your partner a hug, a handshake, a smile, or all of the above. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Russ, do you have a mic? All right. Russ is the runner today. Who has something that they would be willing to share that came up? An appreciation, a gratitude, a new insight. It's okay if nobody has anything, but if you do, I'd love to hear from you. Mary.
Okay. Thank you. So my spiritual ohana, which is right here, is changing because I am committed to affirmative prayer for our church and our weekly prayer group. It all starts with prayer. Judy Sweet says that and stands firm on it, and we all stand firm on it. So every week we pray for this church. So the spiritual ohana is changing because of that, among other things.
Mahalo. Wonderful. And I have been to that weekly prayer group. It's lovely. And I will return again. Anybody? I remember. It just so happened I was on the windward side this Thursday night, but there will be another time when I will be right here. Yeah. And that reminds me, I wanted to put in a plug. You know, Russ and I did have the great joy of being here for the Wednesday night healing and meditation service, and I want to give a shout out to the one, the only Reverend Levitt Thomas. Woohoo! For an amazing service. I mean, if I lived here, I would be here every Wednesday night. We get to do a burning bowl, which I love. I do burning bowls regularly, not just once a year, at least once a month. Or if there's a fire hazard, we've even at times done a shredding bowl where we used a paper shredder to shred those things that we were blessing and releasing. So there are many ways to release. We can be creative. But anyway, Levitt always does an amazing job, and I think that when we put ourselves in this space and we open to the opportunity. I also love lighting candles. I was raised Catholic. Lighting candles is a big thing for me. So there's a little something for everybody. But okay, anybody else have something to say? Olga Lucia.
Okay. If I had a magic wand, I will say bring material and spiritual abundance to every single person on this planet, so everybody can do whatever they want to with their time and really enjoy life.
Beautiful. Enjoy life. What a concept. Wow. Enjoy life. I hope that some joy and enjoyment and pleasure and connection has come up for you today. And we can continue this process as we continue our deepening of connections. Well, I would love to stay and chitty chat with any of you, share after, but just in the interest of time so we can go a little further, I want to really appreciate you and thank you. I saw some really deep sharing and deep attention giving and listening. Do you know what the what is it called when you have all the same letters? Anagram. Do you know what an anagram for the word listen is? Did I hear it? Silent, yes. Silent and listen have the exact same letters in a different formation. So when we are thinking about what we're going to say, or when we start talking in the middle of when somebody else is talking, we are not honoring that individual with our presence. So thank you. That's a wonderful gift that we give to each other. But we're going to move on. Carl Jung, a psychotherapist and Swiss psychologist, said this: your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks inside awakens. So that little activity, that sentence completion, you are looking inside your own heart. We need to put ourselves in a position of awakening more fully, and we can make the choices that allow that to happen. It's all about us. We also have some lessons from nature. Is there anybody here who has not seen geese flying in a V formation at some point in their lives? Isn't it beautiful? Julie Carlson has not. Well, this is an example of what it looks like. V formation. Do you know why they do that? Other than just to entertain us and make us go, oh, how pretty. Look at them in that nice V. I hear some mumbling. Who wants to speak? I'm going to invite you to speak.
It's aerodynamic. The first bird is breaking through the wind, so the rest don't have to use as much energy.
Very, very good. It has even been researched by someone, not me, and estimated that it adds 71% of flying range to the entire flock. So they soar more easily, further, with less effort. But there's more. There's more to this story, other than the beauty and other than the aerodynamicness of it. When they are wanting to encourage one another, they honk from behind. Now, honking has a different meaning in Dallas. When somebody honks at you, they're not encouraging you so much. I don't know, maybe it was like that in Wichita, maybe it's been other places you've lived. But they also take turns. So if one has been flying the point, they rotate out. Because if we take on any leadership role and we stay in that role too long without a break, we wear out. Anybody ever had any symptoms of wearing out? Yes, I see Joanne's hand going up. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. So we rotate and we share. If one of the geese get ill or is shot and has to go down to the ground, two others get out of position and go down with it. And they stay there until the bird either passes or regains its strength. And then they either rejoin another flock or they hook back up with the original flock. And it just is so much of a reminder to me of how we are with each other in community. When somebody's ill, when somebody's having a challenge, when they are hospitalized, we hold back and we join with them. We join with them literally by our physical presence, our loving energy. We go pray with them in the hospital or visit them in their home. And we also put in prayer requests and honor them and lift them up and see them as whole in that way. We have a lot to learn from the flock. Everyone flies further, faster, and more easily when we are truly united, when we are totally moving together. It doesn't mean we have to be the same or act the same, but we can align ourselves. Because isn't that why we had that original jolt of joy when we walked into unity or when we got connected? We're like, oh my gosh, I am home. I'm here. When I first came to this church, when I first arrived and came to church here in 2006, before we got married, Russ and I were married on Kailua Beach in 2006 by Reverend Sky. And I cried when I was here each time, and then when I came back, it's an emotional, it's a profound feeling. And we want to maintain that sense of unity and oneness. So anyway, we're in transition. We're always in transition, are we not? But sometimes we feel it more intently. I know I've listened to Tim's talks, and whoo, oh, he is in transition. Yeah. I heard the pod story and all of that. I haven't said I want to meet more people in Hawaii. I don't want the police to come to me. But anyway, and we ask why. Sometimes, do you ever find yourself saying, why? We're not literally wanting somebody to say, well, it's because da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There's not an answer, but it's still a wondering. We're still calling forth that inner voice, that higher voice to help us know what our truth is and what we're in process of becoming. It's always about transformation. And I love the idea of transformation. It's kind of like that earlier slide. I love the idea of forgiveness, but when I'm in the midst of it, sometimes it's a little challenging. So I encourage you, if you're not already, to consider journaling. Now, many times when I bring this up, people kind of like, I can't stand the thought of writing in a journal. It's like, you don't have to write in complete sentences. You don't have to worry about good grammar. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to evaluate it. Just let it flow. Because one of the things we know is we're very poor observers of our own growth. It's like watching our hair grow or something, or watching our children grow. We knew that they were growing, but it didn't hit us until some time had passed. But journals are really great ways of tracking and celebrating the small steps that we take, because it is a lot of small steps to get to a big outcome. So I encourage you to do that. And we're going to talk for a bit about the packet. And this is one of my slides that I often share, because I hear people say, well, I want to reach out to this person, but they've got so much going on, and I'm just afraid it'll weigh me down. If I have to go listen to them, it's going to upset me. But there's a boundary that we can create for ourselves. Sometimes I visualize myself having kind of like a plexiglass shell around me, and that I'm able to be present and with them, but I'm not taking it all on. When I used to do hospital visits or nursing home visits, and you may have done something like this too, those of you that have been in that role, I would wash my hands before I went in to kind of clear my mind, clear my energy, and make sure that I was really feeling that presence that recognized my own divinity, my own healing power, but also preparing to recognize that in the person that I visited. Then once the visit concluded, I would again wash my hands, not because I'm a germphobe, but because I wanted to release whatever I saw or whatever that experience was. Sometimes when we visit people in the hospital, we see some pretty disturbing visions. So just to be able to, as this lady says, and she was a hospice worker, to be close enough to the fire that you don't get singed and you don't have this urgent need to run away. And it's not an easy dance or step to engage in. It takes a little practice, because sometimes I've gotten too close and I've gotten too caught up in somebody else's story or drama, and then I want to run away. We don't want that to happen, because that escalates our anxiety. In your packet, I have several items, some of which I shared with another community in Colorado earlier this summer. They had gone through a loss, a very, very profoundly significant loss of one of their members, who, for one thing, happened to be the husband of the minister, and for another thing, he died by suicide. So it was very, very impactful. It was a small community. We're very connected, very close, and it brought up everybody's issues. It brought up a lot of anxiety. Some people have certain beliefs about suicide, or many of them had actually experienced their own children dying by suicide. So anyway, it was a really tough time that we shared together, but very meaningful and very rewarding. And I used some of those same handouts for you because they had relevance. On the page that's behind your affirmations, it says resilience and never lose hope. I alluded to that earlier. You know, it's never a straight and easy path, is it? Just like driving around the island. We don't just go from, the south point to the north point in one straight line. Thank goodness we don't, because what would we miss? We would have so much beauty that we wouldn't get a chance to see. But sometimes those little dips and those rain clouds throw us. So I think one of the things that we can do is just be really intentional and clear about what are our resilient skills, what are our strengths, what do we bring to the table. I am not the same person that I was when I was 17 and I went off to college. And I'm sure some of you have moved vast distances, you've gone on big adventures. You're not the same person you were then either, because you've acquired some knowledge about yourself. You're better equipped. I think most of us know now that we can call 1-800-NOW-PRAY. That is the 1-800 line for Silent Unity. We can call that, and it's going to be even easier. We can even submit a prayer request from our phone pretty soon. Linda Martello-Whitsett, who's a good friend of mine and was a mentee too of Reverend Skies and also lived on Oahu many years ago. She's the new director or the vice president for whatever, a big long title for Silent Unity, and she's implementing some really cool things. But know who are your allies, where are your resources, where's your support. Sometimes we have to ask for help when we're not all that comfortable doing it. I was raised kind of, and some of you may have been too, to do it on your own, to be tough, to just dig in. But that's really not healthy. That's really not wise. We are here to be a part of that flow of giving and receiving. And if I'm able to ask Mary for support or assistance or prayer, I'm giving her an opportunity that delights her too. So it's part of that flow. But no, I'd encourage you to fill that out, not now, but later. And somebody had asked me, what does number 3 mean? What is it like to be blank? Well, sometimes that's interesting to try to get into that perspective. Like if there's somebody that is, let's say you're finding yourself feeling a bit annoyed or perplexed or confused, or distancing from that person, sometimes it's best to just kind of move closer and to really ponder and to ask for guidance from Spirit. What is it like to be this person, and what do I need to understand about myself so that I can be more loving to them and what they do and say. So moving on to the symptoms of grief when navigating loss and change. I don't think I said this earlier, but my specialty as a licensed professional counselor was grief and loss counseling. And I expand that to include many, many, many different components of loss, including the things that we want and we look forward to and we anticipate, like Tim and Olga Lucia moving to Hawaii. Who wouldn't want to move to Hawaii? Yeah, right. But there's lots of challenges along the way. Or getting even a promotion. Sometimes, one time in my life, I got promoted out of a job at a university where I had so much student contact. I felt completely secure and knowing in what I was doing, and I got promoted into a more administrative role in university planning, and I had a big learning curve, and I was more isolated. So yes, there were good things. I got a higher paycheck, but there were a lot of losses too. So just familiarize yourself with some of the physical symptoms, the emotional symptoms, and then continuing over on the next page on the back side, some of the social symptoms, behavioral, forgetfulness. If I had a magic wand and I could wave it over this group, and this was one of those, I would change your language around when you forget something being related to your age. I have forgotten things my whole life. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't think I forget that much more now than I did then, but we assign it this meaning that I don't think it has. But anyway, but when we are in the midst of a big lot of changes and when they're compounded even more, there's some forgetfulness. So be patient. And, of course, write in a journal is in there. Do something you enjoy doing. Eat regularly. Be around people. Pick and choose what is going to work for you. The next page, provide a compassionate presence for others navigating loss and change. When I do grief workshops, people say more to me about what they don't want people to say than what they want people to say. Can you imagine why that is? Why would they be so vocal about what you should not say? Yes. Yeah, well, they feel raw, and they've heard things that were hurtful. And we do it in unity too. It's not just those fundamentalists that sometimes people think. We say, oh, it's all in divine order. Does that help? Does that comfort you when somebody says that to you? Probably not. Mary?
I have to share this because it's a lesson for all of us. When my husband passed away, somebody here at the church, and I've forgiven him for this, but came up to me and went, oh, well, he's just in the next room. You can talk to him anytime you want. And, I wanted to just slap her because he's not in the next room, and I can't talk to him anytime I want. And that's all very airy-fairy. But I think what we need to do is more than anything with people who are grieving, listen to them talk. Don't tell them what to do. Listen to them. If you really want to help them, let them express their grief to you and listen quietly and give, some recognition of what they're going through. That's just my very recent opinion.
Thank you. And then also, when my parents died, I kept hearing, oh, I know how you feel. And, everybody has a difference in how they feel. So that was, yeah.
Do you want to say something, Joanne?
Yeah, I was just having a tough time, and I learned a lot from that, because as I would share with people what was going on, they gave me advice. I didn't want advice, I wanted comfort. So I will now listen far more closely when people share with me to say, in my mind, do they really want advice or do they want comfort?
Well, there's an old saying that I shared as a counselor with some of my couples and families. And the line is, nobody is less likely to follow your advice than somebody that did not ask for it in the first place. Do you want to say?
When I was going through with my mother, and then when she passed away, people say, oh, she's in a better place. And I felt like you, Mary, I want to slap them. No, she was in a better place with me and Daddy, taking care of her and loving her. But I've forgiven those people.
Sometimes, and again, this is back to the anxiety. We say something that winds up being hurtful, not because we're mean and we want to say, what is the worst thing I could possibly say? That's not what's happening, but it can feel very jarring. and upsetting. We could spend hours on this. This is why I provided a handout, how to provide a comforting and compassionate presence for others. Offer specific help. The platitudes don't work. And the person may be angry. They may be all sorts of feelings. So one of the, let me see where I am on this. One of the important things to know about yourself is how you do respond when people are expressing different feelings. How do you respond if somebody's shouting and yelling? How do you respond if they're crying uncontrollably? Do you want to swoop in and make them stop? How do you respond if they're berating God, if they're mad, or if they're berating another person? There's no right or wrong, but we need to know what it triggers in us. We need to know where we shut down and where we go into judgment. Because until we clear that up, we're going to be limited in our ability to be with people in their pain. So that is that. Because it is like this, the picture of the ball, a tangled ball of emotions. Sometimes it's so complex. When we're going through losses, we can see the good in one moment and the next minute we're crying. We're mad. We're anguished, we're disappointed, sometimes we feel rage, sometimes we're feeling guilt. So it's all very complicated. On the page that says your healing journey, and then underneath it, what's going on with you, I gave you a big old list of feeling words. A big old list, and a little space to journal about it. So you can make copies of this and use it to familiarize yourself with the language of feelings and to be connected with your feelings. Feelings are not bad. They're not wrong. They don't make you less faithful. To me, the way I consider them is they're like stop signs, or not stop signs, but the signs that are markers along the road, like if there's a yield or a curve ahead or a flashing light or a stop sign, they're signals that alert us to something we need to pay attention to. So become clear on your feeling language. We know that heart connections matter. Another Carl Jung quote that I wanted to share is that people don't feel lonely because they don't have others around them. I mean, when you're in Waikiki, how many people do you have around you? A lot. But what happens is when we feel lonely, when we're with people and we can't say what's really on our heart, what we really need to communicate. And that's how we can show up for each other, is providing that space. It's worth more than anything you could tangibly give somebody. Although those other things are nice too. When I know somebody's going through a hard time, I will volunteer to go do their laundry or do their dishes or mow their grass or go to the store for them. Go to Costco for them. If you're feeling depleted and drained, is Costco not the last place on the planet you want to be? So tangible things and being willing to truly be there. Because grief is hard. Bob Dietz is one of my favorite grief authors. And I love him because his subtitle on his book is Death, Divorce, Relocation. I should be gifting you this book. Or job change. And, that includes when we retire, when we take on new volunteer activities. So it's a little bit more broad-based. And men tend to like men who write books about grief. That's been my experience. So he's a really great author. But he says, the very worst kind of grief is your own. If you sit there and say, oh, well, I shouldn't complain because, Joy, she has it much worse than I do. Or, Tim is saying, well, I shouldn't really complain because, poor Richard, he's going through a hard time. No, it's not about comparison. Your grief is your own. And you can navigate that and just know that you're going to continue to honor yourself in that healing journey and that healing process. this is kind of hard to see, but basically it's the dimensions of wellness. And that it's not just physical, emotional, social, but I actually like to think of 7, and I have an acronym to help me remember. Species, S, spiritual, P, physical, E, emotional, C, career or occupation or volunteer, whatever, I, intellectual. The second E is environmental, which is really important to me, and I know in Hawaii that's very important as well. And the final S is social. Think about each of the dimensions of wellness and where you are on those. You may be wondering why I included a goodbye letter frame in here. Maybe some of your grief is that you really don't have the closure that you desired with a particular person or a situation or an identity that you held. Maybe you are grieving an identity, because we change identities as we change our marital status, as we change our titles, as we change our occupation, as we change our relationships. So that's just a way of acknowledging and owning the feelings and the grief that's still residing inside you. Okay. I'm kind of rushing right now, but I have just a couple of more things to say. I included the agreeing and disagreeing in love handout. I know that was when I first started investigating Unity Church of Hawaii before I came here, that was on the website. We don't have time to go through it, but I really, really encourage you to read it, to breathe into it, to own it as your own. You know, we all love this quote by Gandhi, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." I encourage you to claim it. I am the change I wish to see in the world. And if you are a member of this community, and I've already bestowed the leadership honor on each of you, you are each leaders here, it is important for you to embrace these concepts from agreeing and disagreeing in love and really live into it. I had a little bit of information from a gentleman named Peter Steinke, but I decided that we kind of covered some of the highlights in the anxiety portion of the program earlier. But just to know that there will be anxiety here, and the way that you, as the leader that you are, can serve this community best is to normalize it. It's normal. It's to be expected. Just like I shared with you some of the expectations that you could have about grief, there's going to be anxiety and a sense of moving through a process. It takes time. You know, when I mentioned earlier that we wanted to be over sooner, most people who come to me when I was actively seeing clients in private practice, they'd say, "How long is this going to take?" And my normal reaction, and I know Tim had a different response in his talk on grief, was I would say longer than you want it to. Because that's just always true. Nobody's like, "Oh, I wish my grief had lasted longer," or "I wish I felt terrible longer." No, you want it to be over. But it's okay, because I behold and affirm that you are in your right and perfect place as a community. I have known Tim and Olga Lucia for a long time, and I metaphorically, not literally, turned cartwheels when I learned that he had been chosen as the senior minister, because I believe with every fiber of my being that they were the right and perfect people to be here. So, and I still do, even after the first 4 months. And Joanne's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. So we're at about 6 minutes after the hour, and my apologies. I hope you all are okay with just staying maybe 4 more minutes. Can everybody stay 4 more minutes? All right, we're rocking now. And I came up with keys. I'm very visual, and so I like to think I have these keys. Didn't you always want a magic set of keys that could just unlock all those wonderful doors? So I came up with 3 keys to help you continue to live expansively, harmoniously, and joyfully. And the first key is this: set time to cultivate an intentional practice for resolving internal discord. Because if I'm having discord internally, guess what? I'm going to project it out here. And I'm going to, I don't know what's wrong with Loco today, but, we see it in everybody else. And I have to do this I do this image in my head where, I love you too. I do this image in my head when I know that I'm focusing on other people. I say, okay, Nancy, turn the spotlight around and shine it on you. What is going on with you? What am I not dealing with? So set time, that intentional practice for internal discord. Second key, be faithful in your affirmations of peace, love, and harmony. Be faithful. Continue to affirm peace for yourself, for this community, for the state of Hawaii, for the world, for the U.S., for whomever and wherever you feel drawn to affirm. But definitely, we need all the harmonious thoughts, prayers, intentions, affirmations to support us in this phase of our journey. And finally, the third key, to open your heart, hands, and hopeful spirit. I told you I liked alliteration. Your heart, your hands, and your hopeful spirit as you build bridges with other divine beings. Build bridges. Years ago, I was introduced to a couple, and they wrote this book. Their name is Frederick and Marianne Broussard. Do you know them? They're amazing. Anyway, one of the things that they suggested as a practice was every time you went across a bridge, and I live near several bridges, to affirm, making a connection, building a bridge, making peace, seeing a way to join together with either another person or another family or another community, just to always affirm that divine connection that we all share. It's a small practice, but now it's so ingrained in me, and it's so powerful to just envision those bridges. I am honored beyond words to be here with you. When I say I love each and every one of you and I bless you, it is so much a part of who I am, to join with you and be with you on Sundays and as often as I can physically get back here. So mahalo for your kindness, mahalo for your receptivity, and mahalo for the practices and the processes that you're going to continue to implement as you move forward. I will be back here in November. Yay, yay. But I want to hear from you between now and then, so you can update me on what's happening with you and how you've made these concepts meaningful in your own life. That would be the greatest gift you could ever give me. And we are going to close with a song from the incomparable Russ Little to send us on our way. This will be our prayer. I will be here tomorrow for both services. I hope to see you then for Aloha Sunday, my favorite Sunday of the month. If any of you are on Maui next weekend, I'll be guest speaking at Unity of Maui and doing a different workshop there. And one little teeny tiny plug, if you have time, stop by our table. This is our Unity Spirit of Aloha table. We sell a few items to support our tax-exempt, not-for-profit ministry. I love you all. You are beautiful faces. And so now let's shine our love lights on Russ as he plays.
This was a fun one. my brother is. Ahivela mine loko, ikahana ake aloha, elalawe ne kukino, koni koni lua ikapuai. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Imo, imo, kuiki, ha'o, ha'o, a'u, ia, oe, iluna, lo, ke, a'o, kokai, mana, ike, lana. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky, like a diamond in the sky.
So one final thought, when you look up at the sky, I'll be looking up at the sky too, and we will remember we are connected. We are part of an ohana of aloha. Blessings, Joy.
I have a gold coin for you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. I'm here for questions, comments, hugs, pictures, autographs. Just kidding.